Hey guys, welcome to another day with Zimaleta. In today's video I would like to talk about high pressure fuel pump and where it's located. Along with that I'm going to cover fuel injectors, the fuel incoming line and the fuel return line. I just want to talk just a little bit about the fuel system in the Sprinter vans, because at one point or another you're going to have that issue. Like another thing I'm going to actually cover too is fuel rail as well. So let me go ahead and show you some of these things. I already actually have a video on this in my season 1, but it's not really professional. I have some music probably in the background, so it's could be kind of annoying listening to all that. But I'm trying to, as I go along, to kind of like sort of like remake these videos a little bit better quality for you guys. That way you could understand a little bit more, and plus with better sound. I think this is a pretty good camera here. It does have really good sound on here. This is like a Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound. Even though it's not a new camera, it's just a 1080p, 1080i. It's supposed to be like 1080p, but it records in 1080i according to my computer. So anyways, let me show you this kind of stuff. Obviously with the radiator out, it's a lot easier for me to show you guys different type of stuff, you know, how to do stuff like that, like from here. I'm also going to try to make a video on the belt system, how to actually install the belt. Now that everything is kind of out and it's really easy to see, I think it's going to be really appropriate for me to do. As you can see, the belt is currently off. This is the van that does not start. Obviously, I'm going to need to mess with the high pressure fuel pump. So if you need to learn how to remove it, you could watch one of my videos after this one. Then it's going to be a pretty high quality type of video. So anyways, this is high pressure fuel pump, guys. This thing right here. And to remove it, you don't remove these type of things. You'll need to remove this and a couple bolts towards the bottom. You really can't see. There's normally like 3 bolts holding this thing. Of course, you're gonna need to remove your fuel hoses, and these bolts are very hard to see, so you may end up needing to remove the fan as well, because it's gonna be kind of hard to try to see them. And plus, you know, as things are dirty, and even though I've done this already several times, it is still really hard for me to see like where these bolts are, and I know where to look. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I definitely advise you to remove the fan when you're actually gonna end up removing it. So that's what actually I'm gonna do. I see definitely like 4 holes for this once I actually remove it, like, you know, 4 places. But usually it's only like 3 bolts on them. That's it, and then you could remove it. But you might be asking, like, why would I actually want to remove this thing? Well, let me explain. So anyways, high pressure fuel pump, it's a mechanical fuel pump, okay, and its job to actually pump fuel, obviously, you know, to the fuel rail and all the injectors and stuff like that. And if it cannot create enough pressure, your fuel rail is not gonna create enough pressure either, and your engine's not gonna start. But not only that, it's got a lot of stuff that it does. It's got a sensor on there, and if that sensor goes out, well, you're just not gonna start your vehicle up. Could this be my problem, that I cannot start the vehicle up? I don't know. One way to test it is actually put another fuel, high pressure fuel pump on there and test it to see if it's going to start. Obviously, not having a radiator on here or this other stuff, it's not going to really affect anything, because we're just trying to start the van up. If it starts, we really don't want to run it too long without all this cooling stuff, because, you know, it's going to overheat it. So one of the biggest problems that a high pressure fuel pump does, guys, and this is like the main reason why I want to touch on this type of subject. These Bosh high pressure fuel pumps, they're notorious for leaking, okay? And they're going to be leaking pretty much diesel. And when they leak diesel, they're leaking it right onto your alternator, causing your alternator to malfunction. Sometimes your battery light will come on. Also, it's leaking on your belt, causing your belt to slip, and eventually it could actually slip off, as to what actually happened to me. So you might be wondering, where's this diesel leaking from? And I could tell you guys, yeah, your little pipes could leak, but that's not the concern. You know, if they're leaking, you could see that it's a clamp, and you could just tighten it up and whatever. And yeah, sometimes they do leak from there. But the leak that I'm actually talking about, it's actually leaking right from behind the high pressure fuel pump. and when it's doing that, that's actually when it's creating a mess, and you can't see where that diesel is coming from. And if I would actually remove it, you could actually see there's a little groove over there. It's like a little cut, okay? I would like to show to you where it is, but I don't, you know, I'm not really set up for that right now. Once I actually remove it, then I'm going to show it to you guys and talk a little bit more with the high pressure fuel pump on what it does, because it makes sense to do it all in one video. But actually, you might be asking yourself, like, why is it leaking from the back and not like over there? Is that a bad seal? And I think not necessarily the seal's going to be bad, okay, because I actually haven't seen a bad seal on it. Yeah, it might be bad, maybe it's ripped. If it's ripped, go ahead and replace it. It's like a couple dollars for a seal. But the biggest issue why it's leaking, it's actually, this part is actually made out of two different type of metals. It's aluminum and regular steel, and they're joined together. And it's getting ready to be winter time. This is why I'm actually talking about this, because in the winter time, this is what you got to look for. You got to look for those diesel leaks. And I'll get back to this little part. So when your engine's going to be like on, okay, in the morning, you start your van up, okay, you might be in Michigan or some other cold place, Minnesota or whatever. Guys, I encourage you, once you start your van up, I know you probably need to go pick up a load really quick, okay, step outside, look at the middle of your engine, right in the middle, start looking for the drips, okay, it's gonna do like little drip, 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 if it's not too bad, okay. And you're gonna notice that you're gonna be like thinking, what the heck, why is it dripping? Is this maybe my radiator dripping or what? Like, what's going on? Maybe you're gonna think it's diesel, because you're gonna actually reach in there. I suggest, you know, get a paper towel or a napkin, white one, stick it at the bottom there, and you're gonna see it's gonna have a yellowish or greenish tint. Sometimes you're not gonna really see a color pigment, because depending on what kind of diesel you have. So you'll smell it and you immediately could tell this is diesel, and that's really concerning. So I really suggest you guys look for this problem. It's getting ready to be winter time. Right now you may not notice it, but I still suggest check now. So let me explain. So what's really going on? So you're over there at the truck stop, probably at that 32A over there in Flying J in Michigan. Okay, I'm just gonna pick one of them. Okay, that's the most popular one from Michigan, and I'm in Michigan quite a bit. And the reason I'm actually saying that, because in the wintertime, temperatures drop to like -15, guys, and it's extremely cold. So if you could get your van started, you know, then potentially you're gonna have that diesel leak. I'm just saying potentially, because not everybody's gonna have it, not everybody's gonna have this issue, but it's pretty common. Probably like 80% of people that have this issue, they don't even know that they actually have it until it's like too late. So it's not gonna really cause you any problems. Yeah, you're gonna notice a little bit of a problem, okay? You might think this is due to cold conditions, and you're just gonna be turning over your engine for a long time. It's gonna be like for like a long time. So you might be thinking, okay, maybe the glow plugs, they're not warming up my engine correctly, and because it's so cold, and your check engine probably showing a couple glow plugs out. So you're thinking, man, that's really concerning. So anyways, yeah, like glow plugs will cause a little bit difficult problem, but the way to sort that problem out, just turn the key on, hold it for like a couple seconds until the glow plug thing goes out, turn it back again, and just do that about 5 times. Okay, let's just say 5 times. 3 probably is going to be enough. And what I'm saying is just let the glow plug warm up, turn it back, let a glow plug warm up, turn back, and then start it up. Okay, this is just a little advice, guys, to try to start your winter, like your van up in the winter time, because you don't want to run your battery down, because now, because of the cold temperatures, your battery is much weaker. It's going to be prone to dying a lot faster, and you know, I just don't want that to happen to you, and then getting like jump starts and whatnot, because this will happen, you know, obviously. It's a winter time, and it's hard to start these vans up in the winter time. My suggestion to try to prevent this type of problems is don't have your vehicle running all night, but you know, turn it on every couple hours, you know, just let it kind of warm up a little bit for you, then turn it off, then turn it on, because here's why you don't want to really idle it all night. These vehicles, they're really not meant to be idling for a long time, because they idle below 1000 RPMs. Now there is like idling type of sticks, and you could actually put it on there. If you use one of those, you're going to be, most likely you're going to be fine. But what you will realize is it's not necessarily going to be like keeping your vehicle warm inside. So that's not going to be like a good thing, because most likely while you're running it's to stay warm inside. And I don't know why, but when this vehicle is not moving, it's just not producing that much heat. So it might be like besides the point. So getting back to a high pressure fuel pump, okay, Why is this happening in the wintertime? Well, because in the wintertime, what's happening is the metal is so cold, okay, and it really contracts, and it creates a big gap, okay. So now there's a gap in the metal, and it sort of comes apart, and you really can't really see it, but it's enough for the diesel to start leaking. And obviously when your engine warms up and you're gonna go like look in the front of your vehicle again once it's actually warmed up and you've been driving for a while, you might just step out and take a look, see if you got any drops. You're not gonna have any type of drops. It's gonna be completely fine. And the reason for that is because your engine heat up and the metal expands and it covers up that type of you know, the hole. It's just, well, not even a hole, it's a crease in between the metals. It covers it up. So you might be asking yourself, well, how could I actually prevent this, you know, from happening? And what happens, guys, is, okay, it doesn't mean your high pressure fuel pump is bad. It just means that the bolts in the back, they're loose. So as bad as this sound, okay, and I hope you're doing this at home, you know, on your own terms, you know, but I had to do it on the road, guys, and it took me about like 6 hours to do this repair because it was snowing, it was negative 15 degrees out, and it started leaking so bad for me, guys. It just really started going, man. It used to be just a little bit drips, and I ignored it, okay, for a couple weeks, and I knew what it was. I just don't want to really mess with it, you know, because it's annoying, you know. I'm thinking, look, I'm just losing a little bit of diesel, and, you know, it's okay. So what I started doing is just leaving my engine running whole night and putting a pan underneath of it. And guys, I would have like this much diesel in the pan, like one of those, you know, like those plastic oil buckets. I would use like a little one that I think they have like for a couple of bucks, maybe like $3 or something. I would just stick one of those things underneath, man, catch all the diesel, and end up pouring it back in a fuel tank, you know, when it's leaks out like that. But I just, you know, I didn't have time to really get to it. I've noticed that on the road, and this was like, man, like 3 years back. So that's why I want to make that suggestion for you guys, so that you're not going to be like blind in the dark because of this. And also how to actually notice that you actually have this problem, okay? Before you even look. You're going to be driving in the mountains, and I don't know why, but this happens to be for the mountains. It's going to be real apparent. And as you're going to be going a little bit uphill, okay, and then you're putting a little bit of more stress, take a look at your gauges, your battery light. That indicates your alternator is charging. It might flash. It goes on and off, on and off, on and off. And you're gonna be thinking, what the heck? Like, why is this flashing? Okay, and that's because some of the diesel is making its way inside of your alternator, and I know they're like magnetic and stuff, and but it creates like these little problems, like malfunctions, or it may even be just the fact that it's getting in the belt and slipping. So it's really hard to tell which one of those that it does. Probably the most obvious one. The belt is so greasy. It's just because it's dripping right on the belt, so it's quite obvious, you know. But your alternator also going to be super dirty with diesel, which is crazy. So obviously it's making its way inside. It's not a good thing. I actually replaced an alternator, guys, because of this issue twice. Okay, I put an alternator on, and the problem like stayed away for like a couple weeks, and then it was back again. And this is before it even got cold, okay? This was like, I think like fall, like right about now. I started noticing this happening, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? Like, did I get a defective alternator again? And obviously, guys, I've learned this stuff just from my own, you know, my own sweat, you know, just my own problems that's happening, and, you know, I end up fixing it and figuring these things out. That's why I'm sharing it with you guys. So if you run into this type of situation, don't try to get yourself a costly repair. Most likely it's something simple like this, okay? So I got another alternator, and guess what? I actually got a bigger one this time, like a 180 amp, I believe, and the one before that was like a 150. So I figured I'm gonna have a little bit less problems. It started happening again, and by that time I already, you know, I just thought I had a bad high pressure fuel pump, to be honest with you. I didn't know nothing about it. So I started kind of like doing my research, asking around. I couldn't find nothing on the subject, guys. I couldn't find nothing. I'm telling you, I was like reading so many forums, and it was so confusing. Everybody would say different stuff, and man, you know, try to sort through all that stuff, man. I was reading like Australian forums, the United Kingdom, the American forums. I couldn't find nothing on this type of issue, guys. So So anyways, I took a risk, and I had no choice. Okay, I came to a gas station, and I knew it was kind of leaking a little bit. Okay, but I needed to get some fuel, and I came to a gas station in Michigan, and I was with the load, guys. I was with the load, so I was getting some fuel, and I left my engine running. I didn't turn it off. I pumped some fuel. Then I actually come out outside. I'm thinking, what the heck? And diesel's just leaking like this, guys. I mean, it's like a it's like a waterfall of diesel. It's just leaking so bad, guys. And I could see my belt is hanging towards the bottom, and I'm like, what the heck? Why is my belt up? Did it rip? You know, and then I mean, I knew it probably slipped off, and I looked, and it's completely slipped off. But good thing my engine was still running. I already had enough diesel in there. I already paid. So I pulled up to the light after midnight, guys, and the light was shining pretty good over there. Guys, there's snow all around me, and they're saying that it's gonna start snowing pretty soon, and it started, guys. And I put on like one of those heavy-duty mechanic suits, like insulated mechanic suits, and I just started working at it, guys. Man, I was like, man, I was working at it, and good thing I already had some like little 2x4s from a last job that I did. I needed to actually move the radiator like out of the way, so I think I had like about 4 inches. I pushed that out of the way, and I removed the fan. You know, it was enough room for me to remove the fan, and then I started removing, you know, the high pressure fuel pump. It was not that difficult to remove. It's just I had to disassemble everything, guys, just like I did in this recent videos right here. I disassembled like the entire front end, and which is, you know, it's a lot of work. So that's why it took like 6 hours to do everything. So getting back to the high pressure fuel pump, how can you actually avoid, or actually how could you fix this problem, okay, and prevent it from causing this problem like in the future? So just go ahead and remove it, okay, but be careful when you're removing it, because in the back there's bolts. There's like 4 bolts in the back, and you may end up losing some of them. They might just drop straight down to the ground. So just as you're removing it, try to maybe put your hand or a pan, something underneath, to try to catch the bolts, because guys, when I removed mine, bolts just dropped. You know, I didn't know whether to expect this or not. So when the bolts dropped, I picked them all up and everything, and I'm thinking, wow. So 2 bolts dropped, 2 of them were still in there, but they were very, very loose. So immediately I thought to myself, I guess these bolts are the cause of the problem. You know, I mean, it's not like it's that much thinking, you know, you know, I'm thinking, okay, what about if I just tie the bolts up, and, you know, will this actually help it? And so I removed those other 2 bolts. Okay, so I had like total 4 bolts. Cleaned it up really good with brake cleaner. Clean up the bolts, let it dry. Well, brake cleaner really dries kind of quick. Then I had some light Loctite with me, because I actually carry tools, guys, to work on stuff, and I carry parts. And I put Loctite on the actual bolts, and it was blue Loctite that I was using. I let it dry just a little bit, like a minute, and then I started basically putting them in there. I tightened it up, guys, and I haven't had a problem since. So it was working really nicely, no more leak. Put everything back, man. I was like so happy. One thing I did decide to use is put a new belt on there, because that other one got like diesel on it, and it was still a good belt, but I put another belt on there because I wanted to start fresh. I cleaned off, you know, all my pulleys, make sure there's no diesel on it, because once diesel makes it onto the belt, it might be able to stretch it a certain way or damage the rubber. It's just not going to last as long. But I did wipe that other belt down, and I ended up keeping it as a spare in case, you know, it rips. Because it so happens that when you're driving on the road, it's just like, you know, like anything could happen. It's just so much stuff. So guys, you know, if you're going to be having questions about this, or if you're confused a little bit, and if you want me to touch base a little bit more on a high pressure fuel pump, let me know. I'm going to actually do that for you guys. I'll respond in the comments below, because chances are I maybe forgot something or left something out. But this video was supposed to be about the high pressure fuel pump, the fuel injectors, and fuel rail. Obviously, I'm going to have to do those separately, because it's a lot of stuff to really cover when it comes to that. So